Hello everybody and welcome back to day 34 of the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge. Today, I am doing what at the time I thought was a final color pass of my first page, but it was not. I had this color palette in mind for quite a while, and I thought that it would be a good palette, and it is on its own without any context. It is a good color palette. But the thing is that it is not the best color palette I could have chosen for my comic specifically. So I just let's just talk about that. So this palette is primarily a pink palette. It only just beats the greens in terms of number of colors, and I didn't intend for that to be the case. So after this, so I do like all of the coloring and all of that for this page, and then a lot of this like time lapse is me trying to figure out like texture and all of that, and the exact process of doing the final like coloring and such for my comic, and I get somewhere very close to how I want it to be. This is definitely by far the closest I've gotten to how I imagine the final pages, but it still isn't exactly. And as I was doing it, I couldn't figure out what it was about the page that seemed off. And after fiddling with, the details for quite a while, I stopped recording for the night, and I was like, you know what, that's the video, done. And then I was thinking about it, and I realized it was because the colors were not, didn't fit the vibe that I wanted. And you'll see that I pull up the lineup of my characters, Tori and Thea, and I do that mostly to get Tori's like nose right. As I looked back on this the next day, I was like, that nose actually doesn't look like her nose. I'm gonna make it more like her nose. So I do that, but then as I'm pulling it up, I realize that those colors are much more of what I wanted the color palette of the pages to be. And so I was like, oh, okay, so these colors just aren't right. And I think I managed to catch me fiddling with the color balance like at the very, very end, but by the time that I started doing like the color balancing and all of that, it was like hours had already passed, and I was done for the day, so I left it up for the next morning. But essentially I was floundering with having a final, quote unquote, final page that I wasn't happy with in terms of the colors. And I don't really know if there's quite a point to this voiceover other than me just talking about how I really struggled with making the final details of this page be how I really wanted them. Oh, also, I really, really want the final pages to have a, like, paper texture, like it's done on a, like it was done traditionally, and so I fiddled with and, like, messed around and adjusted the preset paper textures that Clip Studio already has, and they're, like, okay, but the way that they, like, darkened the whole page, I didn't really like, and the texture itself, like, obviously the way that these textures are made is that they're a repeating pattern, but it felt too obviously repeating. And I really, really, really liked the paper texture that I used in Krita, so I eventually just, like, went into Krita, opened up a new document, loaded that paper texture, and then just saved that as a, like, PNG, so that I can put it over the whole page. I don't know if I got that on camera either, because throughout this process, I did pause, and, like, pause and then play and then pause and then play, because I was doing a lot of things, in separate windows that I knew my screen recorder wouldn't catch, because it's set to only record, Clip Studio's, canvas window, essentially, so, sometimes I'm really bad at remembering to press play again, so, it is actually new for me to be doing this voiceover and seeing exactly what I got on video, because I don't actually, watch the footage before I start these voiceovers, and so I'm just doing a lot of, like, I don't really know how to call it besides, like, behind the scenes work that goes into making digital comics, which is, like, as you're seeing, as you'll see, I go into a, like, I don't remember if I did this also in the last video, but I pulled up the concept art that I did way, way, way in the beginning of this challenge of a poltergeist, because I really, really, really liked the colors, and I liked the way it was. I liked the end product, and so I went into that, and I just basically took notes on like the tools that I used, and the layer modes that I set layers to, and eventually I went in to my video archives and I rewatched the speed draw of that video to see my exact process, which honestly is very very helpful of me to have recorded that, because otherwise I would have totally forgotten that I did certain steps to make certain things happen, and all of that. So yeah. So this is probably the last you'll see of me working on the first page, because all that's really left to do is, like, once again, don't really know exactly what this kind of work is called, but just like behind the scenes work, which just means like changing the colors, going in and like color balancing them to make their hue different or whatever, because this morning I looked at the page and I realized that what was different about the about the colors that I didn't expect and that were throwing me off was that in the Poltergeist illustration, I didn't use like half of the color palette from the original colors that I intended. I only used the yellow, the blue, and then the 2 shades of green, and so the color palette was much more in line with the vibe of the comic. And so putting in these 3 like pink tones, pink shades, made it go from kind of gritty paranormal mystery vibe to much more of a palette that you would find in like a cute like teen romance comic. And so that's definitely, I don't know if I'm going to take out those colors and have only the 4 that I used in the Poltergeist art, because I'm sure for a more seasoned limited color palette artist, they could very easily make do with only the 4 colors, but I felt like I needed more of a range. And in general, when using a limited color palette, 7 is probably the most colors you'd want, because 7 is like, it's a good number for having a couple colors, like 2 or 3 colors, that each have like 1 or 2 shades to them, so like a darker and a lighter, so that your page, in the terms of like a black and white value, has nice contrast, and then also solely just like color wise, you have a good range of things, so it doesn't feel like everything in the background except like a couple things are like the same color. I don't really know where I was going with that, but essentially I'm going to keep the 7, the number of colors that I have, but I'm definitely going to change the pink half of the color palette that I used. Probably make it more brown, because I did use the 3 pink colors for like woods and bricks and for woods and bricks, basically. That's what I used it for. So I think the function of the 3 pink colors are exactly what I want and exactly what I need, which is differentiating not just shapes and figures, but also what is it called? Materials. So with like the chimney that's just in front of the tree, if I didn't have the pinks, I would either have to use the blue or the yellow, because obviously I can't use the greens for the chimney when it's in front of the green tree. That would just be a bad move color theory wise. So if I had to pick between the blue of the house and the yellow of the sky, they're both bad options, because in terms of like realism with like the chimney, I guess it could be painted, but the yellow is reserved for the sky and all of that, and light, basically. And the blue, it would probably make more sense to have it be blue, but the whole house is blue. And so it's like, they're both bad options, so having that third range of colors is very, very helpful, but the specific colors that I used in terms of hue and saturation are do not hit the mark. So probably going to talk more about it when I eventually record myself coloring the second page. Hopefully by the time that video comes around, I will not be struggling with this anymore. Because if I am, slap me, please. Because that would just be ridiculous. By the time I get to coloring the second page and I'm still, like, struggling, that's... oof. I'm going to make it my goal for the next couple of... for this week, basically, to not struggle with this anymore. Impromptu goal setting for the next, like, 4 of these making comic videos is get the coloring of my pages and the texturing and the final detail work of it done, solidified, and something that I am happy with and that I feel is cohesive to the tone that I want to set for, you know, my comic, because this color palette indicates that it's gonna be a cutesy, light-hearted comic, and my comic isn't angsty and, like, sad, but it is very morbid and mysterious and dangerous? No, I rescind that last adjective. But yeah, that's all I have. That is it for what I have to talk about this episode. Next episode, we're going to have moved on from the first page, because the last, like, 3 to 4 days for me have been hands deep into this page, and it's like, oh my god, please stop, please just, like, decide, just, like, work so that I can move the fuck on, because god, this fucking page really is just the bane of my existence right now. That's an exaggeration. It's not terrible, but it is, like, a little frustrating. But it's happy work. It's, like, the happy kind of frustrating. Like, I wouldn't complain if this job was smooth sailing, but I'm not complaining that it is a little bit of a bumpy ride, because this is something that I chose to do. It is my passion. And, you know, scientifically, humans are just more inclined to be satisfied and overall more interested in a product that they had to work for rather than just, like, given. It's a really interesting thing. Like, there was a study where people had to work for the food, like, work for their dinner. Like, one group worked for their dinner and the other was just, like, given their dinner, and it was the exact same, like, food given to both groups, and both groups had had very, very similar food preferences, so it's like all of them were likely to have the same level of, like, all of them would like it the same, and overall, people who had to work for their dinner found that it was much more tastier than people who were just like given the food. Oh my god, I am rambling. But essentially it's like that. Like, I wouldn't complain if all of this was just a breeze, but there is a satisfaction and heightened enjoyment for me when I am able to overcome the obstacles that comic making presents. So, I am truly now done talking. If you like this video, thank you so much. If you got all the way to this part, subscribe. I put out a video every day except Tuesdays and Thursdays. I am like only halfway done with this challenge, so you really got like the rest of the year to enjoy me talking about shit like this every day. 5 out of 7 days, basically. So also you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at _monista_. My Instagram is more art focused, behind the scenes, sketchbook stuff. And my Twitter is more personal, so yes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next video.